Hello, everyone out there. Welcome to EP Lunchtime Chats, where we give you a little glimpse into the kind of conversations we have behind the scenes at the Denver Museum of Nature and Science. Everyone you see on your screen is an educator performer at the Denver Museum of Nature and Science. And today, we're going to talk about the hard-hitting question of, so, you get strangers to come into a big truck and eat strange things. And specifically, we're talking about the Curiosity Cruiser, which we rolled out in February. It is a big truck in which you can do fun science experiments on yourself. And of course, if things were different, we'd probably have the truck out at a food festival right now doing fun science experiments. So we can't invite you into the truck right now, but we hope to see you as soon as we can. So I'd like to introduce my panelists. These are the people who will get you to eat strange things in a big truck once we can do that again. And I'd like them to also tell us about the weirdest thing they've ever eaten. So let's start with Jenna.
Hi, yeah, my name is Jenna, and it's weird to me, but I know a lot of other people eat insects and things like that, but I've had one of those like lollipops that had an insect in it and is not my cup of tea, but was a strange experience and just kind of crunchy and weird. But yeah.
Awesome, crunchy and weird, just what you want in a lollipop. And Isis.
Yeah, hi everyone. So I feel like the weirdest thing in terms of something I wouldn't normally eat would be alpaca soup. I actually went on a trip to Peru back in college, and in one of the restaurants they had the soup, and so I was like, oh, like it might be the only time I get to taste it. So then I had it, and honestly, the taste and flavor itself wasn't that strange. Like it basically just tastes like a beef stew. But as far as something that tasted weird, I feel like it would have to be this concoction slash remedy that my mom used to make when I was younger. Like as a kid, I got sick pretty often. And so like she would always try to find like home remedies that she could try to like help me to stop coughing or whatever. And she made this really like disgusting tea that was made out of milk, garlic, honey, and I'm pretty sure she put tomatoes in it. She claimed she did it, but I don't know. I feel like I remember those tomatoes in there. And so that was the weirdest thing, taste-wise.
Sometimes I feel like home remedies are just to shock your body into not doing whatever it was doing. All right, Adelina.
Yeah, so I think probably the weirdest thing I've eaten, well, it's again something that's not weird for me, but I think when I tell a lot of people, I think it's weird. I eat a lot of cow tongue. In Spanish, it's called lengua. The first time I told my now husband about it, he was like, "What the heck?" And then now he loves it in tacos specifically. So, yeah.
All right, amazing. And as we chat, if you're watching us on Facebook, feel free, please share your comments. We'd love to hear the weirdest things that you've eaten, or if you have any questions for our panelists, we'd love to hear you. I'm watching the Facebook feed, so we'll see that. And so, Jenna, tell us a little more about this Curiosity Cruiser.
Yeah, so it's really cool because it's this trailer that we bring around, and it's huge. It's like 30 feet long and it's like 16 and a half feet tall, and it actually pops out, so it gets bigger than it is when it travels. And what's really cool is we don't just have people do things on it, which is one of the things we do, experiments on it where you get to try and eat different things. You can also like write on the walls and answer questions on our walls. But then we also have things happening outside of it. So we do these dissections. They're food dissections that we do. And then people can also interact by like listening to stories of other people's experiences with food and then being able to smell what those people are talking about. So we're trying to engage all of your senses and then also have you connect to food in a scientific way. So we all eat all sorts of things, and it's a way that, you know, connects us across cultures and places, but how do we kind of think about them scientifically, which is something, you know, not everyone has done before, which is really fun.
Yeah, very cool. Food is one of those things that humans have been engaging with since there were humans, and we're still figuring out exactly what that means on like a molecular level. Trelaure said, Isis, that she had to stop listening as soon as you said milk and garlic. And other people have eaten scorpions. Lovely. So In addition, you do some really weird experiments that change the way you experience foods you eat all the time, right? Which is cool. Isis, can you tell us a little bit about how does taste work? What happens when you eat a thing?
So taste is actually a very complex sense, but there's 5 basic tastes that we as humans can detect, which are bitter, sweet, salty, sour, and umami. And umami being savory. So think of things like Parmesan cheese or beef broth, soy sauce, anything that has like that meaty taste. But most of us are really familiar with the tongue map, which tells you that there's different areas of your tongue that can detect different tastes. And we were probably exposed to this, as kids in grade school, but it's actually been debunked. So that taste map is completely inaccurate because we have receptors for taste that are actually all over our tongue. So we can detect those 5 tastes everywhere in our tongue. And what the map does show are sensitivities. So there are areas of our tongue that are more sensitive to certain tastes. For example, like the back of your throat, your tongue is more sensitive to bitter. But again, you can still taste those other 4 tastes in there as well. And we are able to detect these tastes thanks to structures called papillae. And these are the bumps that you see on your tongue. So if you stick your tongue out, you're able to see, all the papillae. Yeah, well, you might not see them here, but if you do that at home. And we have 4 different kinds of papillae. We have fungiform papillae, which are these kind of mushroom-shaped papillae. We also have circumvallate papillae, which are found towards the back of our tongue, and they're in this sort of inverted V formation. And if you stick your tongue out far enough, you can actually see them, and they're huge. Like they're the biggest papillae, and so there'll be those bumps that you see. And we also have foliate papillae, which are very sharp and kind of spike-like. And that was foliate and filiform papillae. Filiform are the spikes, and then foliate are like leaf shape. And all of these papillae, with the exception of filiform, have taste buds. So, you have a papilla, the little bumps, and then you would have taste buds surrounding it. And I'm using this little cutie as an example because I feel like it's a pretty good model of what the taste buds actually look like. Then you would have, all those taste buds on the papillae. And these taste buds themselves are made up of cells, which would be, the slices of this cutie. And those are taste receptor cells. So then when you eat something, let's say, for example, like a slice of cake, then those sugar molecules in the cake would then come in through this opening at the top, which is kind of like a funnel, and we call it a taste pore, and then bind to sweet receptors in the sweet receptor molecules, which then send a signal to your brain telling it, oh, you're eating something sweet. And that's kind of the basic mechanism for how taste works. However, the different tastes do have different mechanisms. For example, for bitter, sweet, and umami, it works kind of like a lock and key. So then the receptor would be that lock, and then the umami, sweet, and bitter molecules would be the key that unlock and send that reaction to your brain. But as far as sour and salt go, there's different mechanisms. I think sour has, some concentration gradients that work with ion channels, and that's what sends the signal to your brain. But as far as salt, it's still unclear exactly how that mechanism transfers the stimulus to your brain. So there's still a lot of research going on. And even with the taste, we know those 5 basic tastes, but there's still ongoing research as to whether there might be additional taste, one of them being unsaturated fat. And also the taste of water. That's still under investigation, obviously. So we're still not sure whether those are official tastes, but they might be. So just keep an eye out because soon we might have more than 5 tastes. I think those are the basics of how taste works.
Quick follow-up question. If there's 5 and maybe a secret 6th or 7th taste, how can there be like 200 flavors of jelly beans?
That's a great question. So taste and flavor are different. Taste is what your tongue can do, or those receptors can detect, and that just includes those basic tastes that I talked about, or the additional 2, or however many. And flavor is an experience that encompasses all of your senses combined. So you get stimulus from your sense of smell, from visuals, from hearing, and all of that combined, then it's integrated in the brain to give you this like picture of what flavor is. So if you, for example, like when you're sick, you notice that you're not able to taste things as well as when you're not sick. That's because you are losing that ability to smell, and smell is really important for that picture of flavor.
Awesome, awesome. So some of our friends on Facebook have eaten frog's legs, rattlesnake, alligator, cow tongue. Amanda dissected a squid and ate it, which is pretty cool. So on the Curiosity Cruiser, you do some really cool things that mess up the way, or it's not a good way to put it. Let's put the experiment in a positive way with the way you experience taste and things like that. Adelina, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So one of the things we do is we kind of mess with your ability to be able to detect flavor and taste. So for example, on one of them, it's called flavorology. The thing here we do is we try to trick you into, we give you like a solution and with different colors and see how that changes your ability to detect the flavor or the sweetness in it based on the color. So that's like kind of a fun one. Another cool one that we do is with a thing called the miracle berry. And what this does is you eat this berry and it makes anything with any sort of acidity, so anything that's like sour like a lemon or even like vinegar, it tricks your brain into thinking it's sweet, which is like pretty crazy because you're not actually eating anything sweet. It's totally a chemical like and also we also have this thing called gymnemic acid, which does quite the opposite. So you'll take this liquid and you'll eat it, and then things that are normally sweet like marshmallows won't be sweet at all, and you'll be eating this marshmallow and you're just like, oh, this tastes like cardboard. So that's just sort of like a trick that we like to do with our guests, which is really fun.
That sounds terrible. I love marshmallows. So we have a Facebook question for Jenna. Where do you take this Curiosity Cruiser?
Yeah, that's such a good question. So when we're not social distancing like now, but before all this, we take it to, and after all of this, we take it to fairs and festivals around Denver. And so we have a 90-minute radius outside the museum that we kind of stay within there that we will take it to. So yeah.
Very cool. So in the future, when things are more back to normal, you can look for the Curiosity Cruiser all over, and you can ruin your favorite foods. So what, I assume you all have tried miracle berries and gymnemic acids. Let's see. Jenna, tell us what that was like.
The miracle berry is really cool, especially, so what we do with our guests is we'll give them a lemon to try first, just to remind you how sour a lemon really is. But after you eat the miracle berry, which isn't itself particularly sweet, it's not like, a candy that you're eating, it's just this berry. And when you like leave it on your tongue, so then afterwards we'll eat the lemon, and it tastes like a candied lemon. Like it is so sweet. I could eat the whole thing. And the same with, we'll give them people tonic water. And I mean, I don't mind tonic water to begin with, but like I could just keep drinking that all day. It's a really strange experience. So we were just trying to eat after we did that. I was just trying to eat as many different things as I could. But the thing that I also found interesting is that it doesn't make sweet things any sweeter. So like if you were to take that marshmallow and eat that, it's not then a sweeter marshmallow. It just tastes like a normal marshmallow. So yeah.
Yeah, I guess the exception is if you have like an alcoholic drink, for example, that's like already sweet, or like a wine that's sweet. If you take the miracle berry, it makes it like unbearably sweet. But it's really fun to do. People will sometimes do like M-berry parties and like just like take this M-berry and try like different drinks. And like one of my favorite ones was like, I hate like Guinness, like it's just too dark for me. But like my husband, he loves it. And with M-berry, it tasted like a chocolate shake. So it's like so crazy to like just try all kinds of things with it.
It's interesting. That seems like it would have a lot of useful applications for people who are trying to cut out sugar or something. Has that ever been? You're all nodding. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I did a little bit of research on this. So what's really interesting is there was an attempt in like the 1970s to get this like, like in stores, like, easily accessible. But there's some like weird things around like it was it was started that the FDA started saying you have to get this approved as an additive, which makes it really, really difficult as far as like the funding and the research for it. So right now at this point, no one's really like done the extensive research to get it approved by the FDA, which is like why it's not really like easily accessible. Like you can't go to like Walmart and buy this. You have to like order it like online or something, and it's kind of expensive for that reason too. So yeah.
Be fun to have gross desserts and then eat a berry and then they're delicious desserts. So and also I wonder if you have a M-berry party, as you called it, or I've seen it called flavor tripping. Like, what about the next day after you spend all day eating lemons and drinking vinegar and things like that? What happens to your body then?
I actually experienced this when we were doing the experiment. I had really bad stomach pain afterwards because I just kept eating lemons because they were so sweet. And I was like, yeah, like this is amazing. And so then, since it's so sour, like it does affect your body. So if you do this, always have some moderation because, you will reap the consequences later.
Imagine. So be careful, everyone. I'm sure you'll have, if you're on the Curiosity Cruiser, you'll have intelligent guides who will keep you from hurting your stomach. We have a question from Becky. What happens if you lose your sense of taste? Good question, Becky. They're all very interested and thinking hard.
I feel like that would be something, it would just be very bad for you because these tastes were developed as like an evolutionary adaptation. So we know that these help humans survive. For example, sweetness developed because it indicates the presence of energy-rich carbohydrates in foods. Umami, like it indicates the presence of amino acids, which are really important for building proteins and a lot of functions in our bodies. And same with the other tastes. Bitter, for example, like prevents us from eating things that are poisonous. And so if we were to lose this ability, I feel like it would bring a lot of problems for our body because we wouldn't be able to detect whether something is bad for you or its nutritional content even, and so you might get sick more often, etc.
If you lose your sense of taste, you'll have to Google what you're eating before you eat it and make sure it's good for you. All right, so Adelina, do you do other? We've got gymnemic acid and miracle berries. What other experiments do you do?
So we do another one called Spicy Revealed, where we kind of talk about spice and how, a lot of people think that spice might be a taste, but it's actually not. It's actually a pain. It's actually a pain sensation. And I think Isis can actually talk a little bit more about this. She did some research on that.
Oh yeah, I'm the expert on spice. But like Adelina said, it is a pain response. So just like we have receptors for taste on our tongues, we also have pain receptors. And these are part of our mouthfeel, which is kind of like the sense of touch of your mouth. And just like, regular touch. And so this includes things like texture as well as temperature and of course that pain. And there's these receptors called TRPV1, which are tripped by the molecule capsaicin, which is what makes chili peppers so spicy or gives them their spice. And the spice varies depending on their capsaicin content, which is usually measured in Scoville heat units. But once this capsaicin binds to the receptors, then it sends a signal to our brain telling it like, oh, your mouth is on fire. And then there's physiological responses that happen. For example, like we can get flushed skin, also start sweating, have a runny nose, get tears in our eyes. And in some cases, it can also make our body secrete gastric juices into our stomach. And so that's why some people, when they eat a lot of spicy food or food that's really spicy, they can get really bad stomach cramps or even diarrhea. It's just because of those gastric juices being secreted into your stomach. And the funny thing that I found was that it actually has been used as a pain reliever in some folk medicine because it also desensitizes those pain receptors. So for example, like if you eat something spicy, like maybe a hot Cheeto, at first it'll be a really intense experience, but then as you keep eating it, then you'll start losing that like sensation of spice. So then it won't be as spicy. And so that's because those pain receptors are actually being desensitized. And recently, my mom actually got shingles, and she was doing some research to see, what she could use to like alleviate that pain. And of course, like I'm not telling you to go buy these things. Just disclaimer: always check with your primary care physician before trying anything, like any kind of home remedy. But she found that capsaicin patches can help alleviate that pain. And again, that's because it's actually desensitizing those pain receptors. And the thing is, like, once we started talking about capsaicin and we're like having a conversation, she mentioned that like back in the day when she was growing up in like a rural countryside area of Mexico, my grandma would give her these like spicy, like chili peppers with honey for her wounds. So she got bitten by a dog. And so my grandma would just like cut a chili pepper open and then smear some honey and then like slap it on the wound and bandage it. And it was supposed to not only disinfect because of the honey, but also I'm guessing it was to alleviate the pain using that capsaicin that's found in the chili pepper.
Wow, that's so interesting. I know I've seen some stuff that they're in various parts of the world, they use honey as wound dressing because it's impermeable, so it keeps bacteria out. Fascinating. So Jenna, we have a question from Nancy. Why can some people withstand a lot of spice and some people only a little bit?
Yeah, so like Isis was saying, you actually can build up that tolerance. So when you start to desensitize your pain receptors, a tolerance builds. So if you eat a lot of spicy foods, you'll be able to eat spicier and spicier foods as you go on because you're building up your tolerance. And that actually starts in the womb. So if your mother is eating a lot of spicy food, that will already begin your tolerance level. And people are thought to enjoy spiciness right below, like the most, they enjoy it the most right below their threshold. So like they, the thing that is about to push them over the edge, like right before they eat something that's too spicy and like really makes them freak out. They like what's right underneath that. That's like their favorite spicy thing, which on our cruiser, we give you like 3 levels of spicy popcorn. And I think one of the funniest things was the very first time when we were still learning the experiment and trying it ourselves, the levels got mixed up. So we ate but we didn't know it. So like we ate the least spicy, which was like cayenne and like really not that bad. And then instead of eating the habanero next, we ate the ghost pepper next, which was a trip for me. And I like couldn't stay seated. I was like freaking out and moving around and it was way too spicy. And then I was very scared to eat the last one because I thought it had to be spicier than that. But luckily it wasn't. So yeah, it was definitely an interesting experience.
Can you expand on when you go over that threshold and you freak out? What happens to a person's body and their behavior when they do that?
Yeah, for sure. So a lot of things happen. So for me, my face gets really, really red and like my nose will start to run. Sometimes your mouth starts salivating. And basically what your body is doing is just trying to rid itself of this thing that's tripping the pain receptor, right? It's trying to get rid of this pain because it feels like your body's under attack. And so vasodilation is when your face or your skin gets really red because your blood rushes to the surface and is trying to cool you down because it thinks that you're overheating because you're experiencing this kind of pain. So there's a whole different range of what your body's experiencing, but it's just trying to get rid of that that pain.
So we have a question from Gabriel, which is a very good question. I don't know if we're going to have the expertise to answer it, but why can't we engineer flavors that taste like the original? Like, why does grape flavored bubblegum not taste like grapes? It's a great question, Gabriel. Everyone's searching their minds. This might be more of a engineering question than a...
Yeah, I personally think it might be because, flavor is such a complex thing. Like like we mentioned before, it encompasses all of your senses. And so, you know, we might have different structures that make us be able to detect things differently, as well as past experiences that, you know, can affect our perception of flavor. So it's really hard to be able to, you know, get the same flavor, because either way, like everyone experiences flavor differently. So even though you might have this, be able to copy this flavor, like it's still not going to be experienced the same way by everyone.
The other thing that I would add to that is we also give in our mood and food one, the one with the miracle berry and the gymnemic acid, we give people durian fruit, which I don't know if you've ever had durian fruit, but the thing about that is that it's so complex, and people, like, when they smell it, people will have widely different reactions to it. Like even like we give people like a candied durian fruit, and even once the wrapper's open and like they had already eaten it and the wrapper's just sitting in the middle of the table, I can't be around it. Like it makes me feel really nauseous, but some people absolutely love it and think it tastes like really, really sweet. So we ask people to rate it on a scale of like really sweet to like dirty gym socks, you know, like how does it taste and smell to you? And it really is widely different. So I feel like maybe things are just so complex that it's hard to, you know, be able to synthesize or, you know, create those in a lab in the same way.
So we're coming down to about the end of our chat here. So one big final question for all of you. We talked about the weirdest thing you've ever eaten. What is the best thing you've ever eaten that you wish you could eat again? And let's start with Adelina.
I guess for me, the best thing I've ever eaten, I think just like my mom's like homemade food, right? Like there's just so many more memories that come with that. I guess probably just like my mom's tamales. Like every Christmas and every New Year's, we make tamales, and it's just like it's like a whole experience, right? You make them, it takes you like hours, and then getting to eat them, they're just like they're no one's tamales compared to my mom's tamales. I don't know.
Yeah, that's so fun. There's we've all probably heard that scent is so closely tied to memory, because your scent immediately sends information to your hypothalamus. So like flavors can also be influenced by past experience and emotions. And Isis, what's the best thing you've ever eaten?
Ooh. You know, the first thing that came to mind was this panna cotta I had during a New Year's celebration. And it was like so creamy and sweet and delicious. And I love sweets. Like that's my favorite taste by far. And I mean, I feel like Adelina said it was also because of the people I was surrounded with. Like I was with my family. So I feel like that just added more to the experience. You know, like the like eating food with people is like it just adds like a whole layer to food itself, you know. And although it's a very social activity, it can also be like deeply personal, since we all experience flavor and taste differently. But I feel like it's a combination of all that.
I just have to share some rumors about artificial flavors that are in the comments. Terlor says it's rumored that red Twizzlers are actually banana flavor. And Amanda says that it's rumored that banana runts are the flavors taken from a species of banana that doesn't exist anymore. So you can't experience the natural root flavor. Fascinating. And Jenna, what's the best thing you've ever eaten?
There's so many foods that I love. I like Isis, love sweet things, and I love like the combination of sweet and salty things. But I think one of my favorite dishes is something my uncle makes, which is these like artichokes. It's so simple. It's just artichokes and onion with like some seasoning and in this broth of water and olive oil, but it is delicious. And I think it's, again, like a family thing, and like eating it with other people. It's also very involved and very messy, which is like really fun. And you can't like do much else while you're eating this. So that's one of my favorites.
Amazing. It's so interesting that how closely food and the experience of flavor is so social and tied to survival, but also experience and emotion, just everything. So everyone, when things are more back to normal and get our Curiosity Cruiser back out on the road, we hope that all of you will come visit us and experience some really cool taste experiments and flavor experiments and things like that. And And yeah, join us next week, next Tuesday at noon. We'll be tackling the big conversation of why are there actors in my science museum? Thank you so much for joining us, and have a wonderful day. Stay safe, and goodbye. Everyone wave.